Hey, can we have our melon back? Junior's hungry and,
No way! This is our private stockpile for the Ice Age! Subarctic temperatures will force us underground for a billion years!
So you got 3 melons?
If you weren't smart enough to plan ahead, then doom on you! Doom on you!
Get away from me.
Oh no! No! Retrieve the melon! Taekwondodos! Attack!
Welcome back to another episode of Front Row Cinema, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers. I am your host, TJ Trimboli, and with me, as always, my co-host, surly woolly mammoth in the house tonight, Mr. James O'Reilly.
Wow, that's maybe the most accurate description of me anyone's ever spoken.
And each week we take a look at my 1,000 movies I've seen in theaters, and we see how well it's aged, along with the hype surrounding the film, its box office analysis, and legacy in the film industry. So if you enjoy this kind of content, hit that sub button on YouTube, leave that 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's how you help the channel grow. Jim, what are we watching tonight?
We're watching Ice Age, which is an animated kids movie.
That's right. Some might say an animated classic, depending on how much mileage you get out of this film franchise. We are watching the 2002 film Ice Age, directed by Chris Wedge and starring Ray Romano, John Leguizamo, and Denis Leary. Oh, I'm knocking shit all over. But Jim, I know you'll hear that sound, and that is the lovely DVD cover coming back out.
Oh,
That's right.
all right.
We're busting out the 2-disc special edition of Ice Age. The absolutely I think if there's any chance that we might see our Sunny Side Up guy again so far, like Ice Age might be a prime contender.
This is definitely his lane. Yeah, this is, if he's gonna make an appearance, now's the time.
Now is the time. So let us turn to the back cover and look here at our logline and hope that our boy has made his return. And it reads, "They came, they thawed, they conquered. The hearts of audiences everywhere in the coolest animated adventure of all time. Heading south to avoid a bad case of global frostbite, a group of migrating misfit creatures embark on a hilarious quest to reunite a human baby with his tribe." That's pretty
Yeah, I mean,
what
kind of punny. Some
yeah.
good ones in there.
One sentence to actually describe the plot, and then they took one sentence to do the they came, they saw, they conquered bit. So
They thawed.
they
They
thawed. They didn't see, they thawed.
Which,
Yeah.
like, is just a really bad pun because nobody, like, gets warm, like, right? Like, it's like the whole point is it's getting colder.
Yeah, like wouldn't it, like you'd want it to be like they like froze, not thawed?
That's what it would seem to me. I don't know.
I guess they
This is
didn't have.
definitely not the work of the Sunny Side Up guy. He's
No,
too
no,
good for
he
what
would
we
he
described.
he would never allow such bad punnage to permeate his log lines. That's just not his style. Absolutely absurd whoever they got for this one. It might have been the Jurassic Park 3 IMDb, or we'll have to do some recon, figure that out. Jim, did you see Ice Age in theaters back in the day?
No, I've never seen any of these movies, honestly, until watching this one right now.
Oh, so this was a first time watch for you.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm, like, sort of familiar with them just through, like, having absorbed culture and stuff. So, like, I knew Ray Romano was in it. I knew, like, a few things about it, but I've never watched any of the movies until yesterday.
Gotcha. Yeah, I unfortunately have been succumbed to some of this film franchise. I think I've only seen up to the third one.
Did you
Uh,
know they
uh,
made 7 of them?
that's insane. I did not know that
Like,
there was 7. I knew that there was a bunch. I didn't know that there was 7 though. That
I
is
think there's only 5 or 6 like canon like Ice Age movies with like all of them in it, and then there's like another movie that's like with the squirrel and all of his like hijinks.
Jesus, the squirrel got a spin-off.
Yeah, and I think he goes to space at some point. Like I know in some of the marketing for one of the movies, he's in like a space helmet, like it's a whole thing.
Like, just talk about what a trajectory. That's just so insane.
I know. Does he ever even eat any of the nuts that he's like carrying around?
I don't know. I
Is he
mean,
still chasing the original one?
if he's going to space in search of space nuts, clearly the Earth nuts just weren't cutting it for him anymore.
Yeah. How many of these have you? Well, I guess did you see this one in theaters first? Is the
Well,
question.
this is the only one that I saw in theaters.
Thank God.
Yes, thank God. I did see, I think, like two other ones, either whether it was on like streaming or wherever. I know I've seen at least one or two more because I think there's one with dinosaurs in it, and I've seen the one with dinosaurs in it.
Yeah, there's one I think it's called Age of the Dinosaurs or something like that.
Yeah, well, it's just like, yeah, sure, of course. I mean, I'm pretty sure dinosaurs were before the Ice Age, but whatever.
By like millions and millions and
Yeah,
millions of
yeah.
years. Yeah.
But I
Maybe
digress. I mean,
billions? Is
maybe,
dinosaurs 65 billion years ago?
maybe. But I mean, squirrels going to space. Obviously, they're not caring too much about the continuity in this universe. So sure, we got dinosaurs showed up or whatever.
Yeah.
So I've only seen three of these, and then it makes sense that there's like now seven of them or whatever. Because now, since this is a Fox movie and Disney owns this now, I could see Disney like making direct to Disney Plus, like either shorts or new movies with these characters.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure how many of those seven were like just streaming releases. I didn't even
Yeah,
think about that.
that would be interesting to see like how many like actually got released in theaters. Really dive into our Ice Age lore here.
Yeah. I mean, there's only one episode. We got to get into it all now, right?
Sure, really
We
gonna
definitely don't need to go that far.
really got a deep dive into our Ice Age lore. But yeah, Big Rob took me and Zach to see this movie, and I really got to say, like 2002 so far that we've been doing here on this podcast has really just been an assortment of absurdity in regards to the movie selections that Big Rob was taking us to. Like you've
Yeah.
got really shitty comedies in like Kung Pao, you've got really great comedies in Super Troopers, we're watching freaking Ice Age. Like you wouldn't correlate. Like, yeah, I took my kids to see Super Troopers. Oh, what are you taking them to next week? Ice Age. Like it's like, yeah, like hard ends of the spectrum here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it kind of works out. Like you're kind of in the sweet spot for like you would still go see Ice Age in theaters, but also you're just about old enough to go see Super Troopers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, 2002, we're what? We're 12 going on. We're just about to be teenagers. We're going on 13.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
So
right, it's like you're in that transition period, so it makes sense that you would be seeing one week and then the other the next week. I want to point out you are really deflecting this onto Big Rob right now, and you are the decider, my friend. You need to take some responsibility for what we've been watching.
that is true. Ice Age definitely a pick up my sleeve. I would say the only one that Big Rob probably had a good say in was Super Troopers because if he didn't want us to see that, we weren't seeing that.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the only one he was like happy to be there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, probably the only time so far in 2002 that he was like, finally, we're seeing a good movie here.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I remember really enjoying this movie as a kid too. Like I watched this movie a bunch as a kid and was a big fan of it. And I'm not gonna give the spoiler alert yet because we're gonna get into it. So you'll find out if those thoughts held true watching it this time. Because I
Yeah,
don't think
go
I've
go.
watched this movie probably since I was that kid that loved this movie and watched it a bunch of times in high school. So it's probably been like almost like 15 years since I've watched this movie.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it held up for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, whether it held up or not, this movie it held up for the people. This movie got nominated for Best Animated Feature, James. So clearly, it had to do something right.
Is this was like the second year they were doing that award, maybe?
Yeah, the
Right?
second
Because
because the
Jimmy Neutron
previous
was a nominee in the previous year.
yeah because the previous year was when Shrek
Right, and I think that
won the
was the first
inaugural.
one, right?
Yeah. So this now being nominated in 2002 would be the second go around. I don't remember what it lost to. I'm assuming probably a Disney movie.
I'm gonna guess. What year did Wally come out again?
That was way later. That
Much
was like
later, right? Yeah.
2008. Yeah. Okay, so it was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature in 2003, losing to Spirited Away.
Oh, okay, yeah. So like one of those like Studio Ghibli movies, however you say that.
Yeah. You stuck the landing on that one, sure.
Yeah. I was so confident too. You could tell I knew exactly what it was pronounced
Yeah,
as.
you started off strong, and then you kind of like faltered as you kept
Well,
pronouncing
yeah. I'm pretty confident in the word studio. Yeah,
it.
I'm pretty sure that's how you say that one. Yeah.
No, even as you started Ghibli or however we're gonna pronounce it, like you started strong, and then you kind of petered out halfway through Ghibli.
Yeah.
The
Well,
other
because I like I got into it and I was like, oh, I really have no idea how to pronounce this. And it's one of those things where I guarantee you so many people know exactly how to say it. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I'm sure. Maybe we might hear it in the comments, possibly. We'll get those weebs coming out, really letting you know and giving you the business. Other contenders for this award this year, Jim. So we had Ice Age losing to Spirited Away. We also had in the running Lilo and Stitch, Treasure Planet, and Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna take those in reverse order. Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron was one of those things where I've never seen it, but I've seen the commercial that was in front of all animated movies back then, where they had like the one commercial for this thing. Um, Treasure Planet's awesome. I didn't see that until much later. And then what was the other one?
Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, Lilo and Stitch. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair win. Like that's if that's what else was nominated, it makes sense to me Ice Age was in the running, and then
Yeah,
I think it's fair that Spirited Away won. That movie blew
yeah.
my mind when I was a kid, Spirited Away.
I've actually never watched it. I'm not a big Studio Ghibli. I've never really watched any of those movies or really ever it's never been my scene, so I've never dived into it or anything, but I do hear that like that one and I think there's one other one that are like considered like some of the best animated movies in regards to like Studio Ghibli.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna pretend I'm like that I've seen a lot of their movies. I think Spirited Away might be the only one I've seen, but me and my sister used to watch that when it first came out, and it was like I still don't even know if I could tell you exactly what it was about. I just know it looked cool and it was really like out there and weird, and I enjoyed a lot of it.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to at least dive into that one considering it won an Academy Award. So maybe at least start there and then maybe see if I fall down a rabbit hole on those movies. But going off of that, makes sense that this movie would be nominated for Best Animated Feature because this movie was insanely popular. You know, we've already talked about how this starts a huge global franchise. It is a resounding box office success. So let's get into the numbers, Jim. Let's dive into those juicy box office deets.
Numbers, dates, and numbers, numbers, dates, hooray. Dates, numbers, show me the money.
All right, so Ice Age opens the weekend of March 15th to the 17th of 2002. It opens, it's just, I'm going to start saying this at the top. It had a $59 million budget, is what Box Office Mojo is citing it at.
All
So,
right. So that's
you
yeah,
know,
that's
pretty
pretty
mid budget.
yeah, fairly reasonable.
And so, opening weekend, it does indeed open number one.
Yeah.
No whammy this week. It opens number one. We're back on track with number one opening
Back on
movies.
top.
It opens to 46.3 million.
Ooh.
It shares an opening weekend with the rest of the top three as well. It
Okay.
beats out Resident Evil, the
Oh,
original Resident Evil, comes in with
there's a movie.
17.7 million. And then in third place, Showtime, which is, I believe it's Eddie Murphy, and then I want to
Yeah.
say Owen
Robert,
Wilson.
no, Robert De Niro.
Oh, right, Robert De
We talked,
Niro. I'm thinking of a totally different
yeah,
movie.
we talked
I,
about
I
this
was
movie
thinking of the spy
briefly.
one.
Yeah, no, we talked about this movie briefly in our Rush Hour 2 episode.
Right,
Yeah.
Showtime, yeah.
Yeah.
Showtime came
So,
in third with 15 million
so
and some change.
not even close with the other movies, but 46.3, good enough to land us in the number 10 spot right here. 46.3, just behind Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring with 47.2, and just ahead of Scary Movie with 42.3. And while that ends up being more in the middle ground here for the movies, at least on our podcast, in regards to animated movies, though, this is a resounding success. That 46.3 is the third highest opening weekend ever for an animated movie, behind, I believe, only Toy Story 2 and Monsters Inc., I think was the other one.
Yeah, I mean that's and I mean we just said it was a $59 million budget, so 46 million opening weekend is you did it, you know? You
Yeah,
know you're
that's
going to
huge.
turn a profit with this.
Especially like I feel like we're in like a very new age here too, because usually for the better part of the 20th century at least, Disney really owned the monopoly on animated movies. You didn't really see other studios do animated movies, and when they did, they weren't anything to this level. And then now here you go, kicking off a new century, and you get Shrek, by DreamWorks, which absolutely crushes it, wins the first ever Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. And then now this year, you get 20th Century Fox jumping in on the goods and opens up a huge opening with Ice Age.
Yeah, I mean, right, and we talked a little bit about it with Shrek too, where this was kind of a down period for Disney. I mean, I think Lilo and Stitch was the one we just talked about was pretty popular, but like Treasure Planet, I don't think did particularly well.
Oh, that did
Um,
not do well in theaters.
and that right, they were in kind of a rut with their princess movies, so yeah, I mean, it makes sense that people are filling the gap. All right, so week 2, we are not gonna go on a run here. Ice Age drops down to second place.
Ooh,
Pretty solid drop, only 35.1%. So like that's decent.
that's not bad.
And it pulls in 30.1 million. It comes in second place to, I'm gonna say this, even though I have a feeling it might be on our list. It comes in second place to Blade 2 with 32.5 million.
Oh boy, Jim, you might want to put that on the possibility of flick you missed because I did not see Blade 2 in theaters.
How is that even possible, dude? How dare you?
The only Blade I saw in theaters was with you and Ryan when we saw Blade Trinity.
Yeah. I mean, how the Blade movies were so essential, man. I don't understand.
Don't
Like
think I was
12-year-old me has nothing in common with you.
How did we
Just,
ever
yeah, he
become
doesn't
friends?
understand you at all.
How did we become friends at 13? How did that happen?
Yeah.
You like Blade? No, do you? Yeah. How are we gonna be friends?
uh, yeah, that's gonna be a strong contender for a flick you missed, though. I think we had one last week too, Count of Monte Cristo, that's in the running. So we'll see what happens. But
Starting up a tally.
interesting tidbit here, in third place that week is a 20th anniversary. I think this is like a recut version of E.T.
Oh, nice.
This might be the one when he took out the guns and put in walkie-talkies, which I remember was like a big deal
Oh,
back in the day.
yeah, I think he did do that. I think it was around the early 2000s that he did that.
Right, because I remember hearing about this like when I was pretty young.
Yeah, and then like South Park did that episode where they made fun of it.
Yeah, that wasn't until later though, right? That wasn't until Crystal Skull came out, I think.
Was it? Maybe.
But they did talk about the ET thing in that episode, you're right.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's just an interesting one. It
amazing.
comes in third place with 14.2 million.
Wow.
Um,
Huge re-release.
yeah, and I mean, so like Ice Age, 2 weeks, by the end of these 2 weekends, its total gross is 87 million against that $59 million budget. And I mean, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, right? Where it comes out in the middle of March, so it's going to ride the top 10. Let's follow it through. So like week 3, it stays in second place, 18.1 million, another sub 40% drop, 39.7, which is dope.
That's good.
That's also a holiday weekend, so 5-day it pulls in 21.5.
What is that, Easter or is that St. Patty's? No,
Easter,
St.
yeah,
Patty's Day would be when it
Easter.
came out, probably. Oh, yeah, so it's Easter.
Right, it came out St. Patrick's Day weekend, and then its third weekend was Easter weekend.
Yeah, so they knew what they were doing releasing it when they did.
Yeah. Oh, I guess wait, through April 1st. So it's like spring break is the idea, right? Like a lot of kids are on spring break.
But that's usually what their spring break is. It's the Easter or Passover recess is usually like combined right around that time.
Yeah, so it's kind of lost in here, but by the end of that Easter weekend, by the time it gets to April 1st, total gross is up to 120.3 million. So it's like it's not really on the weekend charts that I'm looking at, but like the dailies for that time period have to be really good because a lot of kids are off from school, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. 20th Century Fox is just sitting back counting money right now.
Yeah, right. And so it's going to stay in the top 10 in weekend 4. It comes in third place with 13.6 million. Fourth place for week 5 with 8.5. It hasn't dropped above 40% once since it's been out.
It's huge.
Yeah. And it's going to ride the top 10 all the way through week 10 is when it's out.
So okay, so it's out week 10. So that means 9 weeks we spend inside the top 10.
Correct. Yeah.
Dude, that's a good run. We haven't gotten a good run like that in a while.
And by the end of those 9 weeks, it's almost tripled its budget just at the domestic box office. It's got 171 million.
It's crazy. All right, so 9 weeks in the top 10, good enough to join other contenders spending 9 weeks like Gladiator, Shrek, and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So good company to be keeping.
Yeah, for sure. And then just some totals here. It finishes with 176.4 million domestic. So the bulk of that is when it was in the top 10, right?
Yeah.
Uh International 200 and let's call it 207 million even. Um and then world that brings it to worldwide 383.3 million.
Nice. All right. That's yeah, for a movie that only costs like 50, 60 million, like that's huge. 383, good enough for spot number 11 on our charts here. Sits just outside of the top 10. Missing Castaways, 429.6 million, but good enough to beat Jurassic Park 3's 368.7. So
Nice.
that's a big win for a new property right there.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's definitely a big enough win where you know they're going to make at least another one of these, probably like another two or three of them.
Yeah, they're
And
gonna
then, I
be,
mean, we know in the future that they make like
yeah,
7 of them, like we were talking about. But
they
I'm just saying,
know.
like looking at this back then, people are popping champagne and they're already planning Ice Age 2, you know?
Yeah, seeing this now, they're like, we are going to milk the shit out of this.
Yeah.
They were like, however badly we can fucking ape this, we're gonna absolutely do it. I wonder, I'm interested to see. Since this is the only Ice Age one we're gonna be talking about, I want to look quickly and see what the totals were for the other ones. I want to see like how well
Oh,
the
yeah, that's a good
franchise.
idea.
So the sequel's called
Kind of
the
track the rise and fall.
Yeah, so the sequel is called The Meltdown. Comes out 2006. Makes
Okay.
667 million at the box office worldwide against an
Right.
$80 million budget.
Yeah, so right.
Huge, huge.
It's just as good as the first Ice Age box office wise, only it's had time for the first one to sink in and it's like a huge deal at that point.
And then here we go. Next one, 2009, Ice Age Dawn of the Dinosaurs. 886.7 million worldwide.
Bro, and
Dude,
that's just the third one?
that's just the third one. That's up a $90 million budget. So
Dang.
so then we got, dude, the titles for these movies are so funny.
Yeah,
Next
I
one,
was looking at them the other night.
2012, Ice Age, Continental Drift.
Yeah, that was my favorite one for
That sounds like
sure.
it should be like a Fast and Furious movie. Like that's so good.
Yeah,
Uh,
like a dinosaur racing movie.
Yeah, it's absurd. So this one pulls
Or like
879.7 million worldwide.
or like Continental Drift should be like a Need for Speed style tournament that like
Oh
the
my
main
God. Yeah.
character's taking place in. It's like, oh, it's the Continental Drift, and you go to like courses like
Yeah.
all over the world.
Oh my God, that would be so
Like
funny.
there's one race
It's
on each of the 7 continents.
Or they just do like it's the last race of the game and it's just Pangea when the whole landmass was just one. So you're racing
Yeah.
around the entire thing.
Yeah, and it's like breaking apart like as you're racing it. Yeah, totally. That's Continental Drift,
There we
definitely.
go. Yeah, boom. Someone get Need for Speed on the line because we got it. But, so Continental Drift pulls in 879.7 million worldwide. So right on the money there, same as last movie with a
Yeah,
95
what
million,
was the budget for that one?
95 million for this one.
Yeah, so I mean they've spent like less
Absurd.
than 200 million, maybe a little bit more than 200 million making
Yeah,
all 3 of those movies, and they pulled in like almost $2 billion at the box
it's
office.
insane. And so there's
Huge success. So yeah, they
one
keep
last
making
one.
them.
Yeah, they just keep it. Yeah, one last one that gets theatrical. The rest of them have been streaming. Is Ice Age Collision Course
Yeah, that's the one where
2016.
he's in the space helmet, right?
Is it? I don't know. On the poster, he's not in one, but I guess it's possible.
Are you
Yeah,
sure?
yeah. No, I'm looking at in the film after Scrat is propelled into outer space in an abandoned spaceship during an attempt to bury his acorn and accidentally sends a giant asteroid towards Earth. Manny, the herd, and Buck must go on a life or death mission to find a way to fend it off. Like what?
Yeah, there's a poster for Collision Course I'm looking at where the squirrel is in like a full-on like astronaut sand. Like he looks like Sandy from
Dude,
SpongeBob.
talk about insane stakes. You go from in the first movie, these three just have to return a child back to its parents. And then you're going 5 movies later, and the squirrel is in space. He's careening an asteroid towards Earth, and they gotta
Yeah.
find a way to stop it. Like,
It's
get
dude, it's the
out of
Fast
here.
and the Furious problem. The stakes always need to
Yeah.
get better and better. Like you can't ever keep them the same.
Yeah. Well, now this is why they didn't get to make any more, and everything else went to streaming. So this one has a
Oh,
$105 million price tag, only takes in $408 million. So literally in
ouch.
half. Before the last one made almost 900 million. This one pulls only 400. So that's a huge
Yeah,
drop.
right. The only one it's even better than is the original, and it's not
Yeah.
even that much better than it.
Yeah, that's fucking Jesus, dude. What
Right,
I
and it
might,
costs like almost twice as much to make. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So clearly they realized after that one, they were like, I think we might have gone too far. They were like Job
Yeah.
Bluth. They were like, I've made a huge mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's wild to me that they would keep making them for streaming though. Like I mean obviously they're not spending nearly that much money on them, right?
Yeah, well, I think what it is too, looking at it, is it looks like they're making a lot of short films.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's like, yeah, several short films. The Ice Age, The Great Egg Scapade. Get out of here.
Oh
Ice
my
Age,
god.
Ice Age, A Mammoth Christmas.
A mammoth Christmas. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so like I guess it's got to do well enough for them on Disney Plus that it's worth making these at least short films, keeping the franchise somewhat alive.
Yeah, I mean I guess like as well as anything on Disney Plus does. Like how do you really think Ice Age like itself is moving the needle for subscribers?
No, I can't imagine. I can't imagine it was that much of a pickup for them that it's driving any type of subs that would be noticeable.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, but God, what a movie. But all right, Jim, let's dive into this bad boy. We've talked the franchise here. We're gonna hone in on the first one here, setting off our collision course into this world. What worked for you? What didn't work for you in this movie?
I mean, it was like kind of just there, you know. It was a movie. It was so it succeeded in that on that front.
Yeah.
I was probably like more invested in the story than I thought I would be after the first like half an hour. You know what I mean? Like in the beginning, I was kind of like, all right, cool. Like there's gonna be like a baby, and then like these three guys are gonna start working together somehow. Um, I kind of like I loved the three men and a baby like sequence. like like it basically just turned into the movie Three Men and a Baby for like a few minutes, and they're like, "We gotta change its diaper," and then they're like, "Ah, he laughs when he hits you." like,
Yeah, it's very, very silly material there at times.
um, and then yeah, like the first like 45 minutes or so, I was kind of just like, all right, yeah, this is like a pretty like schlock like kids animated movie. Like there's some funny bits, like there's like a semblance of a plot. And then they hit me with like the mammoth's family dying, and I was like, "Oh, wait a second. Okay. Like there's something I can really sink my teeth into here." And I don't know, I thought like that whole part of the story gave it like such a layer and like depth that you don't always see in a lot of these movies. It's like maybe not quite on a Pixar level, but it's like better than you would think it would be, I guess.
Well, it gives itself more of a thematic element to sink into than you would see in like a lot of like a Despicable Me or like Super Mario Brothers that are more just like we're gonna beat you over the head with cool songs and like fancy like colors and shit. Whereas like this one has like something that you can actually like get something out of in a sense because like you get Diego who's learning to be a better human being in this and ends up by the end like willing to sacrifice himself for them. You also get that moment with Manny where we find out that his whole fucking family was like murked by cavemen. I get like the other human hunters. They never call them like they just call them like hunters. I never know what to call them in this because they're just like clearly human, but like they're not like back then they weren't human. They're like Neanderthals or like cavemen or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I guess they're I guess they're Neanderthals. And like yeah, like I definitely get what you're saying about the theme. Like I think that if I had to put it into a sentence, I would say that like people's differences aren't as important as the things that make them the same, you know what I mean? Like and like it's kind of about all this like misfit cast of characters who are like all different things like coming together to save this baby. And like I love the way it ties into the fact that like Ray Romano's woolly mammoth family was hunted by humans, and he basically watched all of them die, and I guess like somehow escaped. I don't know. Like I think that that was the story they were telling anyway, that he was
Yeah.
supposed to be the one who lost his family, and like the fact that even though humans did it, he was willing to like risk it all and like to get this baby back to the humans, and like how it was a fight, and then he's like, no no no, look, it's cool, I brought the baby. And like I thought that moment like really made the movie worth it at the end.
Yeah, it's definitely that layer that helps keep this movie from being, just a really paint by numbers, boring watch. Because when this started, I was like, oh my God, I was like, here we go, another movie that I'm gonna be like just wishing is over as I'm watching that. Like, I'm like, here comes another 90-minute movie that's gonna make me feel like I'm watching a 2.5 hour epic that I just want to bash my head against the wall. And then you get that turn there, and I'm like, oh, like that's nice. I can dig on this. Like, all right. So it's funnier that a lot of the times you see with movies, you get more where you have a really good start and then it can't get to the finish line, where it kind of like falls apart towards the second half. We look at movies like Black Knight that we've done. You get movies that never even get off to the race; they're just brutal the entire way through, like Kung Pao. And then now we got movies like this where it's like you get your first act going, you kind of feel like, all right, I'm just gonna be settling in for like a silly little kids movie that's not really gonna have much to it, like a Nickelodeon one. And then you get that turn halfway through, and suddenly like the second half of this movie, I'm invested, and it's really propelling me now towards that finish line.
Yeah, absolutely right. So I don't know. I maybe was selling it a little bit short because like when you watch the beginning, it is kind of leading you exactly to that place that it gets you to. Like it knows the whole time that it has something more to say, and like when you put it into the greater context, I think even the beginning is pretty good with the stuff that they're setting up. Um, like just the fact that Ray Romano is like willing to help out Sid even though he's kind of annoying. He's like he like doesn't want to see like anything bad happen to him from those rhinos, who by the way, are those rhinos gay? Was that the point? Like is
I
that what
mean,
they were going
it
for?
seemed like it. Like they one made a nice dinner for the other one. Like they were just trying to make it through the ice age together.
Yeah, and they were like a little flamboyant. Like it was
Yeah, talk
like
about
it wasn't.
dandelions.
I'm just trying to figure out if I'm projecting onto this movie or not. But like I was watching it and I'm like, are they supposed to be gay? Like what is going on here?
And then douchebag Sid just comes in throwing shit all over their salad.
Yeah. And then
But
he
I
ate the dandelion.
yeah, it's a dandelion, last of the season. I think what like I agree with you that it has that bit where like once you've watched the movie and remember now the second half of it, you see where the points in the first half are setting that up. I think what makes it feel like more of a slog in that first half is that they're not. I guess they're trying to be more subtle with it. So like you don't know when you're watching it the first time, you don't really notice it. And also the first half, there's a lot of sections that feel very paint by numbers. Like you already talked about, they do the whole three men and a baby section, but also Sid and whatever the woolly mammoth's name, whatever Ray Romano's character's name is, the woolly mammoth, them first interacting and their first few scenes together is basically just Shrek. It's
Yeah, I
basically
mean,
him meeting Donkey. Like Sid is Donkey. Like they saw Shrek and were like, that's what we're gonna do with these two guys. Like they're the
right.
same fucking characters. Like Sid's just annoying, but he's lovable and he's gonna be the perfect sidekick that Manny didn't know that he needed. Manny's just a lovable grouch. But there's some underlying thing, but that he's just afraid to get hurt again or let anybody in again because he's afraid to lose them again. Like it's just like
Yeah.
you just did Shrek. Like
Well, the Fox didn't do Shrek though. DreamWorks did Shrek. You're no, you're definitely right though. I hadn't even thought about that, but it does follow a lot of those same beats. Like I could picture the Fox executive who's like, "All right, how do I rip off Shrek? And lawyers, tell me how I can do it legally."
like even when you first meet Sid and he's like in the tree and realizes like everyone left him for the migration, like it you put Eddie Murphy in there, like he's just Donkey, like they're the same freaking character, like they're just annoyingly lovable idiots.
Yeah. I mean, though, but that's kind of like, I guess that's why it's important that they get to the three men and a baby thing, like, as soon as they do, because then it's a different movie, right? Like, it's not really the same thing at that point.
Well, no, I don't mean to say that like this entire movie just ripping off of Shrek, but that one element there, at least in the early bits, their relationship is pretty much paint by numbers how Shrek and Donkey first get off to like meeting and dealing with each other.
Yeah, and it's a bummer because it's not nearly as good as the way it happens in the movie Shrek. Like, it's
Yeah,
not nearly as
absolutely.
interesting and like,
It's definitely diminishing returns, and especially like once you like, I'm sure when I was a kid I had no idea. I was like, yeah, this is great, but like watching it now, and especially us doing this podcast and watching all of these movies like one after the other, like as soon as it started and we met his first scene and then he meets Manny, I'm like watching this and I'm like, I've seen this somewhere. I'm like, and I'm like, and then, like 2 seconds later I was like, this is just Shrek. I'm like, you fuckers.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not wrong about that. That is interesting.
Yeah. Which is
But
not to say that you can't take from that and it work, but like you got to be like good about it. And I don't think they stuck that in this one. It was noticeable in a way that took me away from it, instead of noticing it and just being like, oh yeah, that's a clever homage, like good work. Like it
yeah,
didn't
and I
feel
mean,
like
like,
it was one.
the other difference too is like in the movie Shrek, what the way Shrek and Donkey meet is like very much tied to what the rest of the movie is about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's about the they meet because imaginary creatures are getting kicked out, and then eventually they're going to end up at his swamp. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then that all ties into stuff with Fiona and Farquaad, who's the one kicking everybody out. It's like that all works. In this, it just kind of feels like these two guys are the two characters in the movie, so they need to meet, so they did. You know,
Yeah,
like, and like the
exactly.
rhinos have nothing to do with what the rest of the movie is about, like, at all. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. They're just there because we need something to happen here to bring these two together.
Yeah, they were pretty good comic relief though, and they did show back up at that one part.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. They do.
when when
Yeah.
Sid was like hot tubbing with all the female
The
sloths, like
female
the lady
sloths.
sloths. Yeah.
Such
And
a
then he pops back up and the rhinos are there.
It's so silly. I will give them though, there are some pretty funny bits in this movie that did
Yeah,
have
there's some
me.
great gags. Dude, the dodo thing we played at the intro was I was losing it at that part. It was
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah, that is really so you got three melons.
Yeah. Like they were so like hyper prepared, but they were just also idiots.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very absurd. And I do like this movie has some good moments too that you need in those animated movies where it has over the top lines that like kids wouldn't get, but like parents would be like, oh geez, like that's like when Diego first like finds them and Sid's trying to like climb up and bring the baby back and he's like, oh, you guys couldn't make one yourselves, so you had to adopt. He's like, that's cool. Like it was like, oh damn, like what? It's like, what did he just say? It's like, okay, Diego, like, I guess like that's a little outdated, but sure, man, you do you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was early 2002, man.
Sure, it was. I did oh, what was the joke? There was one. Oh, so when we first open up after we get the ridiculous opening with Scrat and the acorn, and it pans over to now all the animals on their trek, and you get the one guy going like, why is it got to be called the Ice Age? What about the Chili Age? Or that he has like the really dumb names for it, and the guy's like, I think because of all the ice. And it's so stupid, but like I laughed. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, yeah, it had some good bits, some
Yeah,
decent ones.
it has some decent ones that help you get over the finish line, or at least get you to that point where you get some more, more gravitas to be able to chew into to get you there to the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. Overall, like, I thought this movie was like decent. I liked a good amount of it. The bits were funny. I mean, the story would definitely went deeper than I thought it would. But like overall, like it was still kind of like schlocky. So I don't know. Like what I didn't like, I guess, is it was like you were saying, it was kind of paint by numbers, and a lot of the stuff. I don't know. It just is like missing something to be like one of the like really like classic animated movies that I would go back and watch again. You know?
It just seems more like they were like, hey, an Ice Age would be a cool idea for like an animated movie. And then they just came up with bits around it and then like started creating a movie out from that. So those movies always tend to feel a bit lesser. Like it doesn't have like you, especially when you see some more movies like around this age when like Pixar starts to really kick into gear here, and you see just how much you can do with animation.
You know
And
what?
yeah,
No, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, you got if you got something, go on.
You were right. You were on such a good thought though, and I was like in my own thoughts looking up, and I could clicked for me why I didn't like this movie compared to other ones.
So let's hear it.
So like it has the kind of like deep, like the depth of cast that you would expect from these animated movies, and there's a lot of like, do you are you gonna bring up that guys later? Because I feel like I'm about to list like 6 of them for you.
Yeah, I mean, we could bring up that guys now. Do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, and the animated version of that guy, I think, is like somebody maybe you know and is more of a home name, but you didn't recognize them in the movie. And these are all people that I didn't pick it out that it was them, right? So
Uh,
Jack Black
yep,
plays the voice of Zeke.
yep. That's one of the rhinos, right?
I think so. And then Cedric the Entertainer is the voice of Carl. I don't know who Carl was.
And here, I had no idea.
Stephen Root does a voice in this movie.
Look at that.
um,
Returning.
Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, I was gonna say returning that guy.
Alan Tudyk does a voice. Jane Krakowski, who I believe is like one of the people from 30 Rock. So like
Yes.
it
Well,
has the depth.
Jim, you're forgetting about a very important person in this movie.
Am
Uh,
I?
Playing the human infant is our lactating
Oh
woman
yes,
herself, Tara Strong, baby.
yes, Tara Strong. Yeah. So like you're getting all these like, and this is what you would expect from an animated movie. You have a lot of depth here. A lot of people coming in doing like days. Tara Strong's putting work in. She's like a legendary voice actress, right? Voice
Probably had to
actor.
get all the women out of the studio when they brought her in to play the human infant. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we can't afford to ruin the soundboard. Get him out
Yeah,
of
right. And like her reputation precedes her for voicing infants
here.
specifically, right? Like it's like once you hear that story, how are you casting anybody besides her? Um, but so like where I think this might be lacking is I'm gonna list the top 3 build names here, and I'm just gonna ask you what you think about their movie careers in general, right? So Ray Romano,
So
John Leguizamo, and Denis Leary. That's
So to 2 out of the 3 of those, I would say, what movie career?
yeah, right, exactly. Well, actually, no, 2 out of 3 of them have movie careers.
They've
They're
been
just some of
in
them were
movies,
over by the
but
time we really started watching movies.
this is true. Yeah, Dennis Leary has been in movies, but I wouldn't don't know if you would claim it to be, what you would expect from getting a top build actor to be a voice in this movie.
Yeah, maybe we'll do him in deep dive in just a minute, right? But so like those 3 guys though, like are falling like noticeably short of Tim Allen and Tom Hanks, for example, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like
Or like a John
uh,
Goodman, Billy Crystal, like Monsters Inc.
right,
who just came out around
exactly.
here.
Exactly. Like there's just like something like there's some kind of like star power and charisma that's lacking from all 3 of those guys that I think hurts it for me. You know what I mean? It's harder for me to buy into.
It's fair. I could see that. Yeah, I think it's just a mix of things. It definitely probably was harder to get top talent for this one, considering it wasn't like a Disney animated movie. It's Fox, who have never really made an animated movie at this point successfully, so it's probably a tougher sell to get people to come in and do this movie. But then again, like even reading the script too, you could see like it's got those moments of like cathartic, thematic elements to it, but there's no real through line stitched throughout the entire story that drives you to that point. It feels disjointed until you get to that point where we get the reveal, and then you get those thematic elements. So like it still like hits you because you're a human being, but at the same time you feel that it doesn't hit you as hard as like Pixar movies were doing around this time, because that whole thematic element that they'll hinge on will be stitched throughout the entire movie. Like you look at a movie that's about to come out the following year after Ice Age, Finding Nemo, and it is all about a father learning to like let go and let his kid make his own mistakes and be his own person, and like worry about the fact that like he might get into dangerous situations again in life. And that's stitched right in the opening scene where Marlin loses his wife and all of his kids to like whatever to like the Barracuda or whatever. So
Yeah,
like, I
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're
so
not going to get me to argue that Ice Age is anywhere near Finding Nemo in terms of story. That's for sure.
yeah, but I just mean like they always found ways to make sure that that element is always front and center in its storyline throughout the movie, and it makes it this huge, larger than life thing when you're watching these movies. That makes it feel so much special, and you don't necessarily get that in every scene watching this movie. It's more like a, like a goofy little comedy in the beginning, and then they're like, oh no, wait, hey, Manny lost his family. Like we should be sad about it. And it was like, all right, but where was that from like the get go, bro? Like all we knew was that he was a curmudgeon, and then you drop this on us. Like, come on.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Like a
Yeah,
movie like Finding Nemo is more layered and deep and cohesive than Ice Age for sure.
yeah. And then I think the last thing I'll say, I don't want to beat a dead horse here on the stuff that I didn't like about this movie because I didn't hate this movie, but this is another one, kind of falling in line with the Nickelodeon movies where like some of the animation I just don't like. It's just
Yeah, what
crude.
was up with the way the people looked? I couldn't
Yeah,
even
so I'm
that
saying.
was like so jarring.
Yeah, like Manny the woolly mammoth looks really good. Like I think that, and like when you kind of see I don't really like how Diego the Sabretooth looks. He looks kind of weird in a lot of scenes too.
Yeah.
Like they really hammered and got Manny down. Like he looked great, but like anytime you saw like Diego or any of the humans, like they just looked weird and just
Yeah.
off-putting.
The first scene that I saw them, I was like, it was like very jarring. I didn't even know what to think of it. They looked like very like angular, like which is not how
Yeah,
people look at all.
yeah. Like all their faces were like very like just it's just where you could
Like
tell it was.
pointy.
Yeah, you could tell it's 2002. We're still new to making 3D movies. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're kind of just like throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I don't know. Back then, I mean, maybe that was like passable back then. Maybe that was people would be like, "Wow, how did they do that?"
Yeah, back then we were like, oh, man, very impressive. But now, seeing how far animation's really gone, it doesn't hold up too well.
All right, so I didn't plan this out, but because you just accused him of not having a movie career, we're gonna do Denis Leary.
All of a sudden, I'm gonna hear a knock at my door, and it's Denis Leary and the ref coming to fuck me up.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So he starts like I'm just gonna do his acting credits because I'm sure he has like writing for like a few stand-up specials. He was doing stand-up for a while.
Mm-mm.
Um, but the first the first movie that sticks out to me here is there's a movie called Loaded Weapon, which if I remember
Is that a
correctly, I
National
think is a
Lampoon movie?
parody of Lethal Weapon.
I think so too. Isn't like I think Emilio Estevez in that too or something?
Yeah, Emilio Estevez is in it and Samuel L. Jackson. They play like the two like main cops.
Oh boy, there
And
you
it's
go.
like it's like a spoof movie of Lethal Weapon. But
That
the
sounds
first
interesting.
thing I don't he's probably a small part in that. But the first one that really stands out to me the most is The Sandlot, where he plays Smalls' stepdad.
Right? Yeah, he is in that movie.
Yep, yeah.
It's a great
There's a
movie.
couple of things I don't recognize here in the early 90s, and then 1993, Demolition Man. Do you remember him in Demolition Man?
No, he's one of the like side characters, I'm guessing.
He's like the leader of those like rat people, like rat terrorists from underground that like
Oh my
come up to
god.
like they like attack the Taco Bell in that one scene. He's like the
Yeah.
leader of the underground like resistance or whatever it was.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So already way more than you thought, right? Like in some pretty successful, memorable movies, even if he's not quite as memorable in them. Then he gets a credit in a movie called Judgment Night. That's another Emilio Estevez movie. It's Emilio
Heard of
Estevez,
that one?
Cuba Gooding Jr., and Denis Leary. I've never heard of this. I
Never
have
heard of
no
that.
idea what this is. Uh, Then this is probably the movie that I think he's the most famous for, and it's also probably the movie why Denis Leary doesn't ever lead movies anymore. Because in 1994, he's in The Ref. Have you ever seen The Ref?
Yes, I have with Kevin
Yeah.
Spacey, right?
Yeah, right. Kevin Spacey and I think Judy Davis plays like the husband and wife who he kidnaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, but The Ref is, I don't think it does very well, and Denis Leary is kind of like the lead in this movie, I would say. So he doesn't really get a lot of chances after this. Um, Still a bunch of credits. A lot of these don't sound familiar with me. The Neon Bible, does that ring a bell?
No.
Underworld, Two If by Sea.
Underworld, like the.
Not no, it's from 1996. It's not the Kate Beckinsale movie.
Okay, then no, I don't.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
that.
I don't know, Jim. You're
Yeah,
kind of still
sorry.
making my point that this dude does not have much of a movie career. You named The
Oh yeah,
Sandlot, in which he's in for like 4 minutes. Like,
and then Demolition Man, then The
look,
Ref, and
I'll give
then
you Demolition Man, but like,
I skipped over. I skipped over one in 1995. I was trying to get through some of the ones I don't know, so I could get back to this. 1995, Operation Dumbo Drop. He plays
fuck
Lieutenant
off,
David
fuck,
Poole.
fuck off.
Dude, tell me you didn't see Operation Dumbo Drop.
No, I've seen Operation. Is there a kid from the '90s who hasn't seen Operation Dumbo Drop?
Yeah, so I mean, we've already named like three really classic movies, in my opinion, that Denis Leary has been a big part of. And his stepdad was a big part. Okay, it was his ball that they lost in the
Said in
Sandlot.
it.
Yeah. Then did you ever see 1997's Suicide Kings?
Yeah, it was like Christopher Walken, right? And
Yep,
a
it's like
bunch of people.
it's like
Yeah,
a off-brand like late 90s mob movie.
yeah,
It's really similar to
that movie
that movie The
sucks.
Big Hit. Remember that one we
Yeah,
watched with Mark Wahlberg?
dude, I'm still trying to forget that movie.
It's really similar to that one, which that movie is, I watched it again like not too long ago.
Why would you
One
do
of the
that to
creepiest
yourself?
movies ever made. I still couldn't even wrap my head around it. It was so creepy.
That movie is was something.
He plays a part in Wag the Dog, which is like that politics movie. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's like
Yeah,
about
it's
like
like
they
Dustin
like
Hoffman
fake,
and De Niro.
yeah, they fake like some like big war event, right?
Yeah.
Uh okay, Denis Leary's in 1998's Small Soldiers. Come on, you're telling me this guy doesn't have a movie career? Get out of here. He's in, have you ever seen the Thomas Crown Affair?
Yeah, that's James Bond, right?
Yeah, it's Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, Pierce
Yeah, and
Brosnan.
he's like the
Yeah,
art thief.
yeah. I've seen the original too.
Yeah. I skipped over here too. He also does a voice in A Bug's Life. Is Francis a big character?
Oh, he's the ladybug.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the ladybug. Where they're like, "Ooh, ladybug." He's like, "What you say to me, man?" It's just Dennis Leary.
Yeah. So, and I mean, like the funny thing is, like his movie career. So it's like it exists throughout the '90s because everything we just said is in the '90s. Like we haven't
Okay.
even gotten to 2000 yet.
Okay.
That's a lot of credits, and we skipped over a bunch because they were like not ones I've heard of. But then it does. He keeps getting some decent credits through early 2001, but none of these stand out to me. And it's like from a time period where if they were any good, I think they would have stood out to me. You know?
Well, especially if it was the early
Uh,
2000s, because if they were anything standoutish, we probably would have saw them in theaters.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like I would have seen some of these if they were any good.
Yeah.
And then so then we get to 2002's Ice Age. He does some bit parts in Crank Yankers on on Comedy Central.
Dude, he must have been thanking his lucky stars for Ice Age. That was probably such an easy paycheck for him to cash all throughout the 2000s and 2010s.
Oh yeah, and I mean he was probably making a shitload on residuals because like these are also the kinds of movies that make like great money on in home video. Like everybody's buying this DVD to play it in their stupid the back seat of their SUV, right?
The good old days.
Yeah. And then so like there's still some movie credits here. We get into a lot of Ice Age stuff. And then this is probably what he's most famous for: 2004's Rescue Me, the show, like the
TV show.
firefighter
Yeah, the
show.
firefighter TV show. Yeah.
And that goes for 93 episodes across
Damn.
7 years.
Still not enough for syndication though.
Yeah. 2012. Do you know what movie I'm going to say from 2012?
Movie from 2012 that he's in? Is it 2012?
No, dude, we're gonna have to start calling this the Denis Leary, because he plays like these like not unimportant parts, but like he's somehow so
Oh,
forgettable in
he's
them.
he's the police chief in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes, he plays Gwen Stacy's dad in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Andrew
he's
Garfield
Captain
Spider-Man
Stacy.
movies.
That's right. That's right. He's Captain Stacy.
Yeah, yeah. But like again, like he's an important part of that movie, but he was like somehow the most forgettable thing in the
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man, which is like all time forgettable.
That's right. That's so
I
funny.
created him, so I have to destroy him. That's really like the big credits. Like there's definitely like, oh, actually no, there's one more that is actually pretty topical. Not by the time people hear this, but right now. He plays the head coach in the Kevin Costner vehicle Draft Day, where they're going through the NFL draft.
Great movie right there.
Oh, it's an all-time classic, Draft Day. Everybody should watch it. Me and my dad watch it every year.
So it's yeah, that's an absolute classic right there.
Yeah. And then yeah, I mean, like he does other stuff, but that's really the big stuff I've seen. So I mean, like he has a pretty legitimate career.
Yeah, yeah, definitely bigger things than I thought originally.
Definitely bigger than Ray Romano.
That's for sure. Well, Ray Romano is pretty much just Everybody Loves Raymond, and then like just recently you see him pop up for like 10 minutes in like 4-hour Scorsese movies.
Yeah, right. He gets like a random part in a Scorsese movie. Everybody Loves Raymond, though. Great show. If we're not going to get into Ray Romano, we at least have to say that show was amazing.
Yeah, absolute classic right there. That's a beautiful one. Yeah, no, good for you, Denis Leary. Do you have anyone else? You seemed pretty excited last week that you were going to be getting your chance to throw Spawn back into the mix, and then you didn't pick John Leguizamo.
Yeah, because you did a nice end around. I couldn't let the Denis Leary
Go to waste.
Leary slander stand.
It's fair. It's fair. You really made me eat my own words on that one. So
yeah, I mean, not really. It wasn't all that spectacular.
and that's Captain Stacy you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, I will certainly not forget that in 5 minutes again.
Yeah, that's really all I have for the deep dive today.
That's a solid deep dive. Just some heavy hitters in there that I wouldn't have otherwise expected for Denis Leary. I was about to say, yeah, Denis Leary. That is right. I don't know why I was going to say that wasn't right. Oh boy, I'm forgetting his name. I'm forgetting his credits. I'm sorry, Denis. I'm trying. All right, Jim. Let's move on. Get to our favorite portion of the event. Find out where this bad boy is going to land on our hollowed list. So cue up my boy Ebert. Let's get into those star ratings.
I'm Roger Ebert. In a scene from the best film of the decade. This is a great film.
Yeah, we'll see, Raj.
So I'm not really gonna have much more to say about this, but I think it's a pretty solid movie. So I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5 from the Jimbo. All right, that's actually more than I thought you were gonna give. I thought you were gonna fall in.
This is the Rugrats syndrome, because it's like I can't really give it a 2 because I gave Rugrats a 2, and like I think if I gave this a 2 and you gave this a 3 and it got a 5, I'd be happy, you know.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm gonna give it a 3.
All right, that's fair. I am actually going to give this one a 2. I'm going to come in under you for once. It doesn't happen too often that you give the higher score, but I'm going to give this bad boy a 2. You know, we beat it to death already at this point, but it's, you know, it's fine, but it's disappointing in the long run. It's not a movie I'm returning to ever really again if I want to watch an animated movie, and I think that's really where I have to consider like placing this. I can't give it a 3 or if I really never want to watch this movie really again.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's an interesting way to think of it, because in the days of streaming, right, it's like, if I turn on my Disney Plus app, like, am I really going to put Ice Age on again? Like, probably not, you know? Like, there's, like, probably 100 things on there that I would want to watch first.
I picked before Ice Age. Now you maybe talk about Collision Course where we got asteroids affecting the Ice Age. Maybe we might have a discussion, but certainly not the first one. But all
Yeah.
right, so with a 3 from you and a 2 from me, it's good enough to put this movie with a 5. So that's going to land us in some interesting company right now. So Ice Age is going to join the other fivers we've got with Pokemon the movie and Scary Movie. So Jim, as we always love to do you take Ice Age or do you take Scary Movie?
I will take Ice Age.
You'll take Ice Age, really?
Yeah, over Scary Movie, 100%.
It's bold.
Over the first Scary Movie, absolutely, yeah.
Over the first Scary Movie? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, you don't let me dissuade you. You can take whichever one you want.
No, I think you're right in that one. Ice Age gets the bump over Scary Movie. I would agree with that one on that. All right, so then the bigger question is Ice Age or Pokemon the movie?
I will take Pokemon the movie.
I also would take Pokemon the movie. That one's an easy one. All right, so then Ice Age is going to settle in the number 19 spot, sandwiched in between Pokemon the movie and Scary Movie. And I think that's a solid spot for it. I can that's right. It's right in the middle. I can live on that bad boy.
Yeah, I mean a 5. Like I said, if it lands on a 5, I'm pretty happy with where it landed.
Yeah, a nice little mediocre 5. Enjoy yourself right there with your other company. Would you like to take a hint as to next week's movie, Jim?
Yeah, give me a hint.
All right. So, we've been in kind of this. I mean, this was a box office success, even if we didn't really enjoy the movie so much. So I guess that hint doesn't really work. So I'll give you it's a movie that you have been waiting for a long time in regards to the box office. We talk a lot about setting records in the box
Yeah,
office. This
I'm
is a
not gonna lie.
movie.
I already know what it is. Like
I
I cut
figured.
up the audio for it already, so I am
Uh,
not gonna pretend. It is Spider-Man, and I'm so excited.
yeah, so we're diving into Spider. Can Spider-Man come out to play? That's right. We're diving into probably one of the biggest movies of 2002. Is Spider-Man kicking off what probably is the true renaissance of what would become the superhero film. Spider-Man really kicks us into high gear in the 2000s. So this is going to be a very fun one to dive into. Do you watch Spider-Man often, Jim? How is it for watching it for this time? Has it been a while, or do you go to this movie often?
This is one of those ones where I probably have seen Spider-Man 2 a lot more often than I've seen the original.
Okay.
So I don't go back to this one quite as often. I think if I'm watching one of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, it tends to be Spider-Man 2.
Same. I tend to Spider-Man 2. This one is a fun one to do because it's actually they just put the first Spider-Man, Sam Raimi Spider-Man, back in theaters. So I actually, to do this pod, got to watch this movie on the big screen. So that was really cool to get to return and see it again in the big screen after, was 2002 to now? Is that like 22 years? So it was very cool to get to see that on the big screen again. And now they're actually doing a Spider-Man movie every Monday until they go through all of them. So they're doing Toby, they're doing Andrew, then they're doing Tom Holland. So they're doing all the Spider-Man movies.
You'll have to get up there and catch Denis Leary as Captain Stacy.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna skip those ones pretty easily there, Jim. I'm gonna let you know a secret. The Toby ones are the only ones I'm gonna go see. Not because I like the Tom Holland ones. Those ones are solid too.
I didn't really like Spider-Man Homecoming, and I didn't see the other ones after that.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. So I think the Toby ones are the only ones I like too.
You weren't missing much on Far From Home, even though Jake Gyllenhaal is the man. But No Way Home is good to watch just to see Toby again. For your Toby love.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you that when I want Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire movies are really the bread and butter of what I'm going to. So it's gonna be fun to dive into this one again. We've probably watched this movie so much since it's come out that we didn't even have to watch it before we did it, and we could
Yeah, and I
probably still
mean,
talk about
right,
it.
don't get me wrong. I have seen this like over 10 times, yeah, because I was
Yeah.
a huge fan of it when it first came out.
Yeah, we watched this movie a stupid amounts of time, so it'll be fun to dive into that one. Jim, do you have a recommendation for us this week to leave the people with? What are you watching right now?
I'm watching Spider-Man and I'm really excited about it, so I'm gonna go do that.
There you go. That's his recommendation. Go watch Spider-Man to be ready to talk about Spider-Man with us down in the comments for the gloriousness that was 2002's Spider-Man. But that will do it for all of us here at Front Row Cinema. As always, until next time, we'll see you at the movies.